Hello and welcome back, and today I want to talk about how safe is the data on a Synology. Let's face it, when you buy a NAS, one of the main reasons that you buy a network attached storage device is because you want a private cloud. You knew that if you spent like a $5 or a $10 a month, you could have got some space on a third-party cloud service like Google Drive, Dropbox, etc, etc. Many of those accounts listed at the top of the browser there. But one of the main reasons you went for it is you wanted to make sure your data was safe and private, yet accessible to you and others that you deem worthy of it. But how safe is the data on a NAS? What have brands done to protect your data and protect you from hardware failure, backups, that sort of thing, with their devices? Now, we're going to be covering all the NAS brands right now, but we're going to start today with Synology for two reasons, really. One, because I happen to have a Synology here on the desk because I'm conducting a test, and two, because of the test in question. But maybe it's already gone live, I'm not sure, but I'm currently in the middle of creating a video showing Synology's High Availability Manager. This is when you have two NASs synchronized together working as one NAS, and that way if there's a network connection problem to one of them, or if one of the NASs breaks or has a hardware failure or a PSU failure, you don't lose any access to your files because of quick access to the NAS. Now, that is just one method of many that Synology do offer. So we're going to leave that running in the background because, like I say, I'm in the middle of another video and I hope you enjoyed that when it goes live. But let's head over to the package center and look at some of the ways in which your data is protected. After that, we'll go to the storage manager and show you more. So straight away, if we look at backup. Now, the backup options are good, and I have to stress that. First and foremost, Active Backup. Active Backup is a new application from Synology. It's been around for just under a year, and it's the means to synchronize both virtual machine and localized business computers and servers in your environment, Linux as well, and Windows, to the NAS. And this will give you a one portal access point to monitor those. Obviously, these are more for synchronizing and backing up other devices to the NAS, and not really about how safe and secure is the data on your actual NAS. Well, you've got Cloud Station Server, you've got Cloud Sync, you've got applications that let you synchronize your NAS with other NASs in your environment, as well as synchronizing with cloud services. Again, Dropbox, Google Drive, and more, as well as the likes of Synology's own C2 service, which is an online platform, and of course the popular Backblaze third-party cloud that gives you pretty much unlimited storage for about $10 a month, but it is image-based. You can't just chuck any old storage or files. You have to pick a server and an entire server array and back up that server array online. It's not the same as a Dropbox or Google Drive, so you need to have already had a server in place to take advantage of that level of storage. Hyper backup is when you have two NASs or two servers synchronizing with one another, and then you've got things like the replication service, where that's files being replicated to multiple locations, and of course snapshot replication. Snapshot replication is when sporadically or on a schedule of your choosing, you can take system images of your entire NAS, and these images are then stored and backed up either to the NAS itself, over the network onto another NAS, or onto a USB device or a third-party cloud, of course. And then these time-managed snapshots of your storage can then be browsed through at a later date to find one which may have happened or be recorded prior to a critical event or prior to something that you didn't want to delete or do. Now, one of the big downfalls of snapshots, as good as they are, because they leave a very small system imprint compared with traditional backups, is they are periodical on each other. In real terms, what that means is if you had a snapshot of your storage, one taken every week for the last 10 weeks, you can't go back to number 6 unless you've kept all the other snapshots in between. You can't just delete snapshots in between. Snapshots have to exist next to their chronological fellows, so you have to remember that. Now, if you set it so you've only got 20 snapshots to be recorded, as soon as 20 snapshots are recorded, it will delete the first one so it can make another one and then continue to recycle them in that fashion. But you should never delete snapshots that are in the front. You should only delete snapshots oldest first. Now, another common feature, and this is far more cost effective for many of you, and one that I talk about on the channel a lot, is USB copy. The ability to connect an external USB drive to your Synology NAS and then either back up the content of that USB drive to your NAS, or back up the contents of your NAS periodically, or as you know, manually whenever you see fit, directly onto the USB drive. You can do that on an entire volume wide level if you get a big enough USB drive, or you can hand pick individual folders, directories, that kind of thing, and send those to the USB drive whenever you feel like it. Some NASs arrive with a USB button, so you can action that physically, or the USB copy application will let you set up a schedule so it synchronizes to that USB drive either when you connect it automatically, or as long as it's connected at a certain time of day. Now, there are third-party applications. Again, Unicode is quite popular at the moment, and some of these others, but we're not really going to focus on those too much because we want to keep this in-house. Moving forward, there are other applications that are business tools and development tools and other stuff for security of your device. If we go through just to take a casual look at some, we focused on other videos before about synchronization with third-party clouds and other one, but for the most part, when it comes to backing up, those applications we've just talked about are going to be the main ones. Now, next we can move on to health of your drives. Now, if you're using Seagate Ironwolf drives, they arrive with that great health management tool inside your Synology NAS, then you can access a lot of that information via the storage manager. Don't forget about that storage analyzer, we'll talk about that later on. But if we go into the storage manager, from here we can see all of our storage. We can see individual volumes and the drives themselves, and we can conduct tests if we see fit just to check their health. So in the case of these two drives that we've got in our primary NAS, we can look at either looking at the health info of an individual drive. We can run a smart test that can be scheduled to double check if there's anything wrong with the drives, and if we were using Seagate drives, they would show up with their own health management applications and tools for you to action. On top of that, DSM 7.0, when it gets released, has its own drive checking system with a whole backlog of history that Synology have utilized in multiple hard drive tests and help you ascertain and look after the health of your drives and swap drives out prior to a critical event. And again, all the tests, all the info are readily available for all of your storage. Talking of storage, of course, these drives in this device are in a RAID. We've RAIDed these two drives together, and that's another way in which your data on those hard drives is protected in a way by hardware failure. Now, make sure RAID and backups are not the same thing in your mind. Wipe that out if you think it is. RAID, redundant array of independent disks, is when multiple drives are pulled together in one form or another to create either more storage space, or in the case of this RAID 1 setup, to allow that if one of those two drives was to break due to hardware problems, poorly built, etc., if that happens, your data is still safe and synchronized on the other drive. And another one of the most common day-to-day ways in which your data is safe within a NAS. But remember, that protects you from hardware failure. It doesn't protect you from viruses, doesn't protect you from ransomware, doesn't protect you from critical loss of data. That's where snapshots and backups come into play. Now, you can look at the storage analyzer, and this storage analyzer, once installed, will basically analyze all of your files and folders and either try to make room for you or recommend ways in which you can make the most of your storage. Now, talking of storage and files, if we move over to the file station, we can talk about how files and folders are set up on a NAS. There are much better ways to do it. As you can see here, this is 50 gig of files that I'm using in this current test. But what we can do is create a brand new folder. And this is another way to show you not only that you've got easy, fast, quick access, but also secure access. So if we create a shared folder, so this is going to be a folder that's accessible over the internet or the network. You have to give it a name, so if we just call it test folder, spelled correctly, maybe if I try not to type like an idiot. You can give it its own recycle bin as you would with a computer, and you can say where it's going to live. In the case of this NAS, because it's in a RAID, there's only one storage area to deal with. We click next, and remember that storage pool is still within a RAID, so you're protected with RAID in this shared folder we're creating. Next, an encryption. Now, this device, the DS918 that I'm using, utilizes AES-NI, Advanced Encryption Standard New Instruction. And this kind of encryption 256-bit level encryption, and it is near enough impossible to break. And because it's AES-NI, it's a much smarter algorithm. Your read and write speeds do not suffer as much as they did in the past. So we come up with an encryption key here. Put in there, and this is what's going to be used to create the cipher onto this. So if this data moves from this NAS, you will need this encryption key to get in. Next, you can enable data integrity checks on this folder and all the data that's inside, and you can also say if you want unlimited storage space on this folder, so it can just grow as big or as small as you want, or actually limit this folder. So if I limit this to 100 gigabytes, and there it is with encryption enabled, integrity protection enabled thanks to BTRFS, and from here you can see the quick warning: if data is lost and the encryption key is lost, even in RAID, you're still going to lose everything. So now it's going to create this shared folder, and from here it isn't just encryption level protection and RAID level protection of your data that's on the NAS, but also you can say of all of your users how much access they got to this folder. So at the moment I've only got 2 accounts, admin and guest, but if I was to go to the control panel and create another user, I can actually change. So right now I can say that a guest can only read this data but not write to it. You can even have it so that they can never see this folder. But I want admins to be able to do whatever the hell they want. And you can create more advanced permissions if you see fit, and change the encryption as you see fit. But for now, we're going to create this folder, and now we've got our new test folder. Again, going back to the earlier point about users, we can create a new user, and we're going to call this person Idiot. We're not going to bother giving them a login email address, but what we can do is give them their own login into this NAS. So if they access this NAS, they won't see that folder. So case in point, let's give this person a name. Do you know what? Trust me if you're using a keyboard that doesn't have a caps lock. And now we're going to say this person is a default user. He's not anyone special. He's just a normal, bog standard user. We're going to say this user, because now we're creating it from the reverse. We're saying that this user will not have access to that test folder. So we're going to say no access at all. They can access the other folders. We're going to be very generous, but this user has no access to that folder that we've just created. We're not going to say if they've got a quota limit of what they can do in that folder. And this tells us what applications we're allowed to let them use and see. We're going to say all of them. And this is now our new user, who, once again, I've rather stupidly called Idiot. And from here, we can actually log into this NAS as this user. And if this user logs in, they will not be able to see this folder. Right now, I'd have to use incognito window. So if we do that, open up the incognito. So now we're accessing this as a separate user. Make our way into the NAS. Log in as Idiot. And this user, if we go into File Station, cannot see that folder. As you can see, we minimize this window, that folder is there, and the admin user can see that folder, whereas our Idiot user has no access at all. We've got access to the applications, as we said, as they go in, but apart from that, nothing else. And that's kind of what you want with every user having their own login, but a single admin can control the flow of data. And that's another great security setting you get with Synology NAS. Apart from that, that's really about it. The number of security settings within the device gets even better when it comes to things like Quick Connect, which lets you access the NAS via the internet using a domain service, where you can enable Quick Connect to access the device over the internet, but you will still have to use your login information in order to do that. And again, every user can have their own access restricted or opened up as much as you see fit. On top of that, going back to the control panel, we can go back to external access network settings with things like firewalls and maintenance of traffic, and actually limit some users the level of speed and access they've got. And once again, if you've got a VPN up and running, or you need to get a VPN, you can head over to the package center and install things like Viper VPN and other third-party VPN suppliers. If you go in there, we can look for the VPN, and there's our VPN server where you can enter the credentials of a VPN we signed up with, enter them into that, and then boom, you are ready to rock. The Synology NAS is a very, very good platform. You can monitor everything in terms of internet connectivity, network connectivity, and more. And for my video regarding high availability, we're still nowhere near complete on that, but I am looking forward to showing you some of the other ways in which your data is safe on other NAS platforms. But that's really it for Synology NAS. You have lots of little options if you want to dig a little deeper with regards to access permissions and privileges. But other than that, that has been how safe is your data on a Synology NAS. I can't wait to see you next time, and I'll see you on a QNAP NAS, an Acer Store NAS, and more. But otherwise, thank you so much for watching. Shop at Span, visit nascompares.com, and I'll see you next time.